Um, and I know we'll have more people joining on this morning, but I truly do appreciate you waking up with us and connecting with the Dream Makers Network for the Mastermind call. For those of you on the call for the first time, I truly appreciate you, and we welcome you to the Mastermind call. My name is Byron Deese here in Maryland, and I couldn't be more excited to, every time we get a chance to dive in on this call, people from around the country who have really, I can tell you, these folks have made a commitment to personal development, personal growth, made a commitment to taking their life from where they are into the next level, wanting to be more than just kind of a person who's just here and, a person alive and waiting to die, as I heard somebody say. This life is definitely more than just being alive now and waiting to die. There's a lot that we can do. And the fact that every time, usually when we host this call, and we host this call every other Saturday morning, we now host a monthly call, but it doesn't matter when it is. Every time we do it, there's people dialing in, joining in, and who are, intentional, around growth, around development, around goal setting, around wanting to, get the most out of this time in this life. And I think that's exciting. I think it's just, for me personally, to be able to associate with people who have made a commitment to growth and development. And so, we've been hosting this mastermind call here since since Labor Day of 2012. So, it's amazing. Anytime we mention that, because time that's just going on, and so much has happened since that time. And we're almost 9 years in a couple months, and so it is those little consistency type of blessings that I look at is just things that another reason, why it's so important, I think, to have these type of networks of people who, one, they've made the commitment for growth and development within their own personal lives. But the exciting part about the network aspect is that you now have organized, like-minded people to support each other in their various journeys. And when I say support, what I really mean is, you're in a position where, you can actually learn from what someone else is doing. You can be in a position to share where you are. And a lot of times we don't think that our stories are worth, really broadcasting. And maybe we were just some of those people who are very humble in the way we approach, life. And so we don't like to bring a lot of attention to ourselves. But I'll tell you, when you have these networks of like-minded people who are all pursuing a similar objective as it relates to growth and development within their own personal lives, I would hope, and I would say, even in my experience, those trusted networks, you begin to feel much more comfortable in sharing and much more comfortable in saying, hey, check this out. Let's get together. Let's catch up for coffee. Let's just talk a little bit about where you are, what you're doing, what you want to do. And maybe, just that conversation could create information that you didn't have before, a thought process that wasn't available to you at that time. And I purposely say, words like that wasn't available to you because you were just trying to come up with it on your own. And so this term of the mastermind isn't just a nice term to throw out. This actually comes directly out of the book, The Laws of Success in 16 Lessons by Napoleon Hill. He coined that term. The mastermind is when 2 or 3 people come together in the spirit of harmony, that the collective mind helps you to access things, information, just a new window, a new paradigm, if you will, of information that was not available to you on your own, because the collective mind that harmonized around a singular objective. And I can tell you, the first time I heard that, I was like, now that that sounds familiar, because even in the spiritual faith, where we talk a lot about, and even in the Bible, it talks about when 2 or 3 people come together in my name, I am in the midst. And so this was a concept that was not foreign to me, but it was just very interesting to hear it in different contexts and be able to use it and have and take that type of information as available in whatever approach that you take, whether it be, and we all have these examples. You're getting ready to host a party and you say, you know what, I'm putting together the guest list, and I can tell you for sure I'm not inviting people who I know don't want to have a good time, or negative Nancy will not be invited. she ain't coming. I'm making sure when you're doing that guest list, you're like, oh yeah, I gotta invite him. Ooh, I definitely gotta invite her. You're getting excited about the people you're inviting, because you know the kind of energy, the type of personality that they love to have a good time. That's the an approach that we've used in the mastermind. And usually when you invite the right people, you have the best time. That party worked. Everything was right on point, and you end up talking about it forever. These are the concepts and some of these laws, universal laws, that are available to everybody, and we already use them. The question, though, are you using them on purpose, intentionally, to further your objectives, to create the types of networks and the type of resources that you really feel are important to take where you are and go into the next level? And that's really what, in many ways, this call is about. The impetus of this network really is associated with that, and being in a position to doing things on purpose that will have value to our individual goals and objectives. And so that's what this is about. And I'll tell you, I know we've had people who've connected with us from different groups, and maybe you're part of networking groups, and say, hey, you should dial in or go to an event. And, and maybe you're just thinking about marketing your own business. And that is huge. We've done that. Many of us are in business together, have done investments together and supported each other. And that is something that could be a benefit of participating in networks like this. But I will say the core objective of what we're here to do now, and what we've been doing for the past 9 years, is to help you accomplish your personal objective for life. That's what this is about. 155%. And if there's some financial benefit or some relationship benefit or community effort that saw some increase because of this, then that's a home run too. But we want you to be able to walk away saying, I think I got a better understanding on what it is I need to do. I think the outlook is a bit more clear. So you can be able to take that information and begin the process of moving forward with confidence, with excitement, even if you're doing it all on faith and you don't have all the details mapped out. The fact that you felt confident enough to even move in that space is exciting, and the goal of what we're trying to accomplish here. So thank you. We welcome you. We appreciate your time and joining with us. And we look forward to hearing from you on the call this morning. Well, I did want to take a second before we dive in. Today is one of those dive in moments on our within this network and for this call. And I'll just preface this is that every year we host a 90-day goal setting initiative every year, and 90 days from Memorial Day to Labor Day. So this is kind of a monumental, really the foundation of this network is goal setting initiatives and challenges, and putting yourself in a position to say, you know what, I'm going to devote some time to better me, to take that idea that I had in my mind for years and I've always had it. I've shared it with a couple of people. Years have gone by, or you could even be in that situation where, wow, I was just exposed to something that I thought, I believe may be beneficial to me, but I got so much going on in my life. I just don't know how to get started and all that. The 90-day goal setting objective that we have done over these past years is, at the end of the day, that moment where you look yourself square in the eye and say, it's time to challenge. It's time to see what I'm really made of. Am I willing to challenge myself? Especially when that thing that you are challenging yourself on is, you believe, will add value to the trajectory of your life. That's what this is about. We don't want you to, like a dare, like your buddy say, hey man, I dare you to do this, and I'm gonna do it too. Like, that's okay. But what we're really trying to get to the point where you don't feel, where you can look at barriers, whether those barriers have just been mental blocks, maybe it's been self-esteem, maybe it's been, just the habits that you haven't broken, and things, and you feel like those habits, you've had them for a long time, but you don't feel like those habits are adding value to your life, whatever it is. And that's the point that we really want to make here, is that when we talk about goal setting and using this 90-day process to progress your life, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what that goal is. And you'll hear on the call people who have outlined different things that they want. Some of the things that some people will talk a lot about business, others will talk about health and wellness, others will talk about their spiritual life, others will talk about their relationship with their significant other or their family. You're going to hear a myriad of goals. And I think that's important, because, this is something that has been in your spirit, in your mind, that you just have not pushed the gas on. You haven't, taken that first step. And even if you have at some point in the past, you said, I tried it though. I did. I tried it. It didn't work. And my thing is that if you tried something in the past, it didn't work, right? But you still think about it. It's still something that you're telling yourself, well, if I could figure this out, man, if I could figure this out, I think I'm on to something here, right? What happens is you get new information. You get new information, you get access to different people, you get things that you didn't have before. It's just like somebody saying, I'm gonna build a house. And it's all in your spirit, but I'm going to build a house. I'm like, okay, great. Do you have all the tools to build that house? Nah. What you mean by tools? I'm like, you need to know the right types of tools to use to build a house, and so you can't, come, just have a couple nails and screws here. So listen, this is about to be the house, right? You need to make sure what tools do I need to move forward and be successful? And that's what this is about. We want to be in a position to draw from those who have done it, those who are doing it, especially if it's specific, right, to what it is that you want to see happen in your life. Then we can be able to organize the steps, identify the tools, get access to the resources, and be in a position where you're going through this all at the same time, and then be able to check your mindset, right? Because if you have all the tools, looks like you've gotten the right information from the right people, the tools are available to you now, and you're like, it still ain't working. Uh-oh. Now we got to look at you. Where is your mindset? How do you feel about this? Now that you have this information, are you energized to go make it happen, or are you afraid of the possibility of success? Oh, people don't like to hear that kind of stuff. He's like, what you mean? Yeah, I want goodness. Yes, I want better things, to happen in my life. Do you really, right? Because and we just have to, that's the reason why the mindset part is so important, because we don't realize sometimes that we have created over the years. And it's not that you've even done it yourself. And I will tell you, probably in most cases, people that we love who are trying to protect us from hurt, harm, and danger, right? That sounds like parents. Sounds like parents, sounds like spouses, sounds like people who really want to see you, okay. Maybe your dream and your big idea is too big for them. It's not, it makes them a little nervous, but it's firing you up. And listen, these people are going to love you for the rest of their life. And so you don't have to worry about hurting their feelings because the fact that they said different things to try to help you from getting hurt, those are, endearment things like, oh, we want you to be good. So that's cool. But what I will say is that you have to enjoy and be thankful for the fact that you have people in your life who love you and willing to pray hard for you and do all types of cool stuff. But you definitely need to find you a network of folks who are willing and ready to approach goal setting with the type of energy that you have and that you want. Because if you don't, it's going to be extremely difficult when the process to accomplish something that you've never done before, especially when you're able to associate with people who have done it, either whether you associate with them through their books or whatever, and you hear their stories, you learn more about their stories, and you can even find those little areas in the story where you say, yikes, I wouldn't have been able to get through that. Like it's always that moment, you say, what did you do? How did you get past that? Because in your mind at that particular time, you're like, I don't have anything within me now that would make me say confidently that I would have been able to get over that, which means that would have been the barrier to you being able to access the type of accomplishment of the goal that you really want. And so I say that because I want us to think about this 90-day goal setting challenge as an opportunity for you to become more, meaning where you aren't afraid as you were in the past. You may have been afraid of something for whatever, ungodly reason, that you were afraid of either failure, you were afraid of your time being changed, so your norms being disrupted. You were afraid of something, which was the barrier. And so this process that we want to begin to go down is something that I think is just, when we go through life, we don't want to be, have that goal when we were in our 20s. And then the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s hits. And now you're sitting there like, man, I wish I would have when I was 71. Like, man, I wish when I was 25, I would have just made it happen. I should have done it. We have to make a decision. And there's nothing better than making decisions. You make a decision, then you act, right? So you make a decision, then you have faith and just keep going. And when we make a decision that this is what we're going to do, yes, our life is going to be disrupted, what we've known. And the truth is, you may be getting ready to have a new normalcy, a new normal that is unlike anything that you have done before. And the powerful part about that is, you don't have it in your memory, of your own self when you lived a life like this was your new normal. And we all just kind of went through that, right? That's why there was a lot of people with anxiety when COVID hit, because there was this disruption of our normalcy that people just weren't prepared for and didn't want. And anxiety set in. And before we knew it, it was other health issues were coming. And so I just want us to be able to take a look at this summer and say, here's my goal. And I'm at least just commit myself to 90 days. And we can shrink that up. Say, no, we're going to commit ourselves to 30 days. And let's even shrink that. We're going to commit ourselves to a day. Step one, accomplish the goal for today. What is that? That's the process. That's where we are. Memorial Day is on Monday. We got the weekend. For those of you, if you're here just for the first time, some of you have been around in this network for a long time and you're used to this. You're ready. You're like, oh, I've been thinking about it. You may have been on some of the other calls. But for you who are just dialing in for the first time, like, what? Are they talking about goal setting right now? I don't want to hear about, well, maybe I do kind of want to hear a little bit about, let me just hear a little bit more what they talk about this goal setting. And then you're saying, yikes, I need this, right? But you are at the beginning of the beginning, right? I mean, it's like, it's so fresh. And then you got all these other things that were already on your mind before. And like, how am I going to prioritize this? Listen, do not let any of that foolish, negative energy get in the way of this goal that matters to you. That is where we are. And so I wanted to just kind of give a quick preface. Actually, that preface was longer than I expected, but this is such an important time as we think about this 90-day goal setting challenge. And I want to weave into this. Last week, or on our last call, we talked about asset management, and asset management more so from the perspective of your assets, and we're not talking about your house and your stock portfolio. You're not on this call, so we can have another call for that. But we're talking about the assets that you have, that you bring to the table, the things that other people benefit from because you are there. I know a lot of times we don't think about that, but because you showed up, somebody else's situation was increased, because of your information, because of your knowledge, because of your presence, because of your energy, something. It's important for us, we talked about on the last call, that we understand what our assets are, what they are, and how to use them. How do we grow, increase those assets to the same way we look at our stock portfolio, and I look at our net worth statement. We have to do the same thing for our own personal set and collective of assets that we bring to the table. Know what they are, identify the types of things that we have to do to increase the value that we have, what are we doing to actually, yes, I know I'm good at that. So, hey, I know I'm good, at starting businesses. I know I'm good at teaching. I know I'm good at public speaking. I know I'm good at all these whatever things, I know I'm good at contract work or whatever. But what are you doing to increase it, to increase the value? And then being able to use it and finding the right markets to invest your asset so you can not only add value to yourself, but add value to that particular market, that group of people, those different things. So just really having an assessment of that. And I can tell you there was purpose around having that conversation last month as we're getting into this 90-day goal setting challenge, because it's so important for us to know what we bring to the table. And I'm really talking to all of my beautiful, humble souls out there who just, oh, no, don't bring any attention to me, please. I'm just here to do God's will. We got a lot of folks like that. And that is a blessing to be there. But you need to know and fully understand what your assets are so you can continue to do God's will and be that humble soul who is impactful, right? Yesterday I was listening, and I think I know probably not too long ago I mentioned this. I was just I was listening to an old video on YouTube. Thank God for YouTube, man. There's so much information out there. on Bishop Patterson. Bishop Gilbert R. Patterson passed away in 2007, but there was these different people talking about his life. And the one consistent theme, and I even shared it on this call, but it's just always cool to hear other people say it, was, what most people saw on television was this powerful, impactful preacher. But people who worked with him directly would just talk about how he was this humble spirit, humble person, wouldn't talk until he felt like whatever was going to come out of his mouth was going to be of value. And we have so many of us are like that. So many of us just like, I don't want to be involved, but I just want to make sure that we understand we're being in a position to start to say, yes, I know that this is something that I'm good at. And usually when I get involved in different things, these things tend to happen. Just know that and know it as part of your personal attributes, your personal assets. You could have more than one thing that you bring to the table. I love, as you guys know, because this is the Dream Makers Network, I love to network. And I remember, I've loved to network for a long time. Now, even from the beginning, I enjoyed networking, but I wasn't that good at it. So I didn't really, I enjoyed being around other people and learning more about who they were. So that was kind of a form of networking. But it wasn't until that I decided to start connecting, and really asking, multi-layered questions of folks to really get to the core, especially as we started this whole process around goal setting and not just connecting people on surface level goals, a goal that your boss told you, this is, if you do this, you're going to get that, right? So it's kind of a surface level goal, but to be in a position where you can have a goal that's actually a couple layers under, a goal that was sparked way back, when your mama gave it to you, or, that old uncle who used to always give you those nice jewels, would say different things, something that's been kind of weighing in your spirit for a long time, but you haven't been able to articulate it. And now being in a position to move with that objective, and then finding out how that initial seed that old Uncle James gave us back in the 80s, if you begin to use that, how it benefits all these other quote unquote surface level, monetary goals and all these other things. So being a bit more impactful in networking is my goal. And that's what I'm always trying to figure out. How do we be more impactful in networking? Where we're not just solving a quick objective, but we went a little deeper, and so asset management is something that I definitely think that is important for us as we're going down this road of identifying who we are and what we can bring to the table. It's so important to make sure that we know what we got, we know what we bring to the table, we are intentional as to who it benefits, and more importantly, that we continue doing it in a way that is not only adding value to your goals and you're checking those boxes like, man, I'm doing it, but we've created a system where it's just a part of our lifestyle, and so many others are beginning to benefit as well. So, all right, I want to take a second. So we've kind of gone through the month of May. We're at the end of May now, and I just want to kind of hear from you guys as to how this month has been for you on this goal setting journey. Some of these goals we started before the new year, and we just kind of built into trying to create more of a daily lifestyle around these goals, and you guys know what they are personally. What's been the good, the bad, the ugly in the month of May, what's worked, what hasn't worked. We just want to hear where you are. And it could be, you have a story that is positive, that inspires some of us. You may have, hey, listen, I gotta be honest, it hadn't been good, and here's what happened. And then we can begin that process of maybe even sharing some information. Someone on the call could highlight, hey, I've been there. This is what happened to me. And so let's take a second. We want to open up the call now. Anybody want to share, talk about the month of May? How has the month of May been for you? The good, the bad, the ugly. We'll take a second and open up the call now. And also for our folks on social media, please feel free to leave in the comments. The same thing. We just want to hear. And again, sometimes this stuff is just good for you to have finally verbalized. And we want to put you in a position to do that. So we'll take a second to open up the call now.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. I wanted to listen a little bit, see what's going on in May for everybody.
Yeah. They're waiting for you. They're waiting for you.
Nah, man, listen, brother. Well, May for me, as far as the thing that the new thing that I've been working on as far as the health piece, and really getting consistent has been it's been good. It's been an eye opener. I've come to a lot of conclusions and been paralleling things that I was having trouble with through exercising and getting healthy. It's a very basic skill to have, right? That's the way I'm looking at it now. Like a skill, like the skill to control your mind and make it do what you need to do, or make your body do what it should be doing, so that you can be healthy, right? And it is a skill. You know it's a skill because you look around, like any other skill, a lot of people don't have the skill to do it. That's hence the reason why, we've been dealing with this thing for 2 years of, pandemic and all that kind of stuff. Just probably in general, we're not that, as a country, as a world, and then more like as narrow it down to us, as a community of Black people. It's not that healthy, right? So we don't really have that skill. But so developing that skill in myself has opened up my eyes to a lot of different things. And trying to parallel them with skills that I've been trying to develop in other areas. So that's been eye opening, to say the least, right? So it's a couple things he's done for me. Is one, obviously got me somewhere else. So all of the things that were tough to do, and it's so cliche, but it's just a fact. You have to do it. So when we started in February, I guess, or when I started in February or somewhere, it was cold. Yeah. I wasn't able to accomplish a lot of my outside goals. I think we talked about that. I basically had to quit, in the middle of the run and all that stuff, and just my hands were frozen and all that stuff, right? Yeah. And now, after doing it for some time, just consistently doing it, I've been able to accomplish goals and go through it now, but it has allowed me to become resilient in other things, meaning that now as the word, as I give myself the word no, like I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. I do want to do that. I don't want to do that. I can easily turn on the yes, like, nah, you going to do this? Because that muscle is now stronger. And I mean, not the physical, not the muscle. I mean, like that mental toughness is there to say, hey, you don't want to do it, but no, you're going to do it. The whole time I'm doing it, I may not want to do it. feel completed. And that mentality has come from the effort and the building the skill of controlling my mind through consistent physical activity.
Mm-hmm.
More when I would do stuff, I wasn't approaching it from that way. I was approaching it from, wanting to be healthy, but probably more of a, physical look. You work out, you say, okay, I want to get this muscle to look that way, and I want to kind of be cut up like this. I got this picture of, I tell you right now, it's funny. My one of my guys is Will Smith is going through this now. Right?
That's right.
Now he's spinning and all that, right? So, but one of my, if you go back, I think it's iRobot.
Yeah.
Is the movie? Not iRobot. No. It's even more. It's I Am Legend.
Okay.
No, it's one of those two. Anyway, he's doing. Which one is it, John? You see how important that physical thing is. My wife is in the living room right now. She doesn't know what we're talking about. She's like, it's iRobot. How did you know that? Like,
right.
And she's like, the one where he's doing the pull-up. He's like, it's iRobot.
Get back to your talk.
Right. Anyway.
Oh.
That might have been, there you go. So there's body goals, I want to look like that. I'd love to have my body look like that. Why? Because I want that reaction.
Yeah.
From women, every time I love this. For people to remember me, what I'm saying, and be able to quote a period of time where they saw me, 10 years ago, like, oh yeah, it's still burned in their mind,
Yeah.
That's physical. So that might have been the beginning at that time, right? You just try to work out. And, you get some results. I don't say I've never made it to that level, but, it's got goals. So,
yeah.
The concept around it, though, was more of that. So it was more actual surface, right? But now, doing it, the mental piece has been far more enlightening and far more stronger. And that muscle has been built up. And my consciousness around and awareness around things that they block that happen, like I was saying before, where you want to tell yourself no and you don't want to move forward and you don't want to do stuff. The awareness is there now because I've worked through it on the physical side.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked through it on the physical side. So that piece has strengthened, has gotten stronger. It has. And I've seen it in all kinds of different activities and things where I'm like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to do that. I'll do that. I don't want to do it, but it'll get accomplished. No question, I'll get accomplished today. And those kind of things are strengthened. So there's been an awareness about that, the consistency and the idea that I'm working that I'm developing that skill, and not for surface, for something deeper. And it's a lifelong thing. So I made that commitment. I'm like, well, this is just going to be the rest of my life. Which is a strong thing to say. But we talked about that. We talked about the people. Like we talked about Malcolm as being one of my guys.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to say things that you're ready to die for. Are you ready to die for that? Everything you don't have to die for.
Yeah.
A lot of things aren't that important, but you have some things in your conviction that are life or death that mean that much.
Yeah.
Most of us don't have many things like that, other than like our kids. But when I say that, and that conviction comes, and I think about, the rest of my life and what it looks like, and I start breaking it down, I'm like, well, man, I'm struggling for, 2 months to do something. I want to live for another, if I live to 100, 50 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
I got to be doing this for 50 plus years.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
So this month or this day, it's insignificant, but it has to get done. But I also got to be willing to turn around and do it over and over and over and over for 50 years, 50-year commitment, or until I die.
Yeah.
So that idea of once I get that decision, it's over, it's this. Not like I'm just gonna run it up for the summer or get right for a particular, I've never done that for ladies, I know sometimes they'll, get right on event and then, let it go. Like, the graphic, I'm getting ready for a wedding kind of thing.
Yeah.
They get ready, either be married or be in one or be in some kind of event. I want to fit in this dress and it's over. Then you go back, go up and down. But what I'm saying is, for me personally, I looked at it like this is a commitment for life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been calming as well, but then also to have that conviction has been out. And like, wow, okay, you made a lifelong conscious commitment to something lifelong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Conscious commitment to something lifelong, which I can't say I've done many of those before, in marriage and, I guess taking care of your kids and, all of, that, I mean, as you say it, when you get married, you say it like, oh yeah, I'm doing it for life and all that. But the commitment, I mean, I'm not sidetracking it because, you know what I'm saying. Like,
no, I'm with you.
You may not. But I'm saying, y'all got married on a boat, you know what I'm saying? Y'all did it with love, and, it was powerful. It was a powerful thing. I was impressed. You know what I'm saying? We all come to You actually toured the country on a love tour. I mean, these are all facts. Everybody's listening. These are all facts. They went around the country and had different parties for their love, like Miller Dixon or something.
Hey, Paz, I gotta ask you. I gotta ask you a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So as you've been going through this, because I remember when after one of the calls that we had, and we were talking about our health and wellness network and our daily updates and everything, and then when you joined, and you've been very consistent, better more than me and maybe even everybody else, but throughout this period, though, have you been doing any modeling as it relates to, here's what, because you mentioned Will Smith and kind of where he is, because I know in other aspects of your goals, Will has kind of been a good model. But I think after he said the term, hey, I'm willing to die on the treadmill, I think you were like, oh, Will Smith, you motivation? I think after he said that, you were like, I need to pay more attention to what this dude talking about, because when somebody can make a definitive statement like that and like, I know for a fact that I'm willing to die on a treadmill, so I'm going to win, right? So, but have you done any like, are you looking at any examples to say, man, okay, here's the regiment, here's an example of what I'd like to accomplish, or is it you started down a road and a path? And you're I was listening to, what's our girl name? Simone Biles the other day. And, she's not only is she a world-class gymnast, but she's a living legend. Somebody who's literally and active in the craft, almost like when we were watching Jordan in his prime, right? And so she said that, she just, at this point in her career, she's just competing against herself. She doesn't really even recognize that other people are going, or have their times or their, their difficulty. She's just competing against herself. So are you at that point where you're just like, I'm not really modeling anybody in particular, I'm just competing against myself? Like, what are your thoughts there?
The first thing is definitely competing against yourself. That's all, and there'll be another, that's another eye-opening, thing, another realization that lives within that commitment piece.
Yeah.
That we're all just competing against ourselves in every single thing. In every single thing. So it's like, but yeah, the competing against yourself is 100%. And the conversations that I have with myself, in reference to, getting up and running and doing whatever the regimen is for that day. And it's not crazy. It's something that I'm like, it has to get done. But I don't want to do it, but it has to get done. But I don't want to do it, but it has to get done. I don't want to do it, but it has to get done. And meanwhile, I'm putting on excuses, it has to get done. I don't want to do it, it has to get done. And sometimes 3/4 of the way through the thing, I'm still arguing with myself.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. You're actually doing it. I know, but I don't want to do it. You're actually doing it. We're almost done. And you got done. damn, I didn't want to do that. Guess what? We're going to do it again tomorrow, or whatever the designated day is. You know, so it's always a thing against yourself. But the modeling piece, yeah, there's always I do model. It's not well in the workout thing. But taken from one of our guys. I don't know if I mentioned that. I know I mentioned it to you when we were talking about not the mastermind group, but a group of people that we follow. Like a counselor, invisible counselor. This is a guy that's doing it right now. His name is David Goggins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
David Goggins. He's a brother. He's an ex-Navy SEAL. He's an ex-Army Ranger. He just has mental toughness. And so the things that he says, I mean, I don't know him, but, you know, I read his book and, you know, I follow him on all the little social stuff. He's not heavy on there, but when he gets on there, you know, it's not to put on the video. You know, I've seen his interviews and stuff. So I've done the research that it takes for me to kind of learn what I can from somebody from a car, right? So he has a mental toughness. He's actually, he's a 200-mile, 24-hour marathon field, right? And he's also, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So he's like a super athlete. But he says the same thing that, you know, I just said, the same thing that Simone said. You against you. You know, you have to spend time in the mirror in your mind, and they all related to athletics.
Mm-hmm.
But the mental toughness piece translates through everything you do. You know, translates through everything you do. They just happen to be athletes, known for, but I'm sure that the reason why they are, you know, successful and where they are is because of the mental toughness. You know, and it's never because of athletic powers. Once you get to a certain level, you know, everybody's basically, you know, at certain levels are great athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to the level where the mental toughness makes Simone and makes him somebody who, you know, runs 200 miles and done all this great things and beat all these odds, right? So, yeah, I do model somebody, but I model them because they use mental toughness to overcome physical things and then let it translate throughout the rest of their life. And that's the thing that I want. That was the realization I came to. Well, when we first started, I was like, it was a checklist on my things I should be. And I got that perfect checklist.
Yeah.
Well, if you're perfect, you know, as well, you should be healthy. You know, you should be rich. You should have a loving family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you should have a business and let you do what you want to do. You know, it's checklist. I'm like, I got it, man. I got a checklist. Being healthy is one of them. So I started that, and then I realized that the mental piece is more powerful, really, than the physical piece.
Yeah. You know, I'm gonna tell you what you just said here. I don't want to do it, but it has to get done like that. And even if you just have to make a song out of that, you know, I don't want to do it. It has to get done. Like a DMX version. I don't want to do it. It has to get done. I don't want to do it. It has to get done. Like, you know, and it's just like, and that's the rhythm, especially if you're on the tread or you're doing something and you just letting that rock. You know, next thing you know, you start barking like DMX or something like in the middle of it. You know, I'm telling you, man. But that mental toughness, and it's, you know, the cool thing about mental toughness is that if you are mentally tough, or you know, it's one of those situations where you're not afraid of challenges. You're like, you meet all these people, you know, these Iron Man people and they're doing the Tough Mudders and and they're doing the marathons and all of the, you know, and you're like, yikes, dude, like, okay, I get it. But at the same time, you know, it's I mean, I guess I always try to look at it from my priorities, you know. So am I mentally tough and able to apply that mental toughness to accomplishing goals that are surrounded by my priorities, right? And so it's like I was going through this actually, and this is kind of a jump into what I was going to talk about here on the back end. But there's this book that I got several years ago actually, and I dusted it off for this 90-day goal setting, but it's called Living Your Best Year. Let's see, folks can see this. Okay, here we go. Living Your Best Year. No, Living Your Best Year Ever. So that's different. Living Your Best Year Ever by Darren Hardy. And so Darren Hardy, some of you guys know, is the editor of Success Magazine, which is, I would say when I started, Paz, when we started this journey, 10 years ago, 9 years ago, this personal development journey, all roads led back to Success Magazine. It was a place it was a resource to go where you can just get this catalog of personal development information and people and speakers. And it led me down the road to Jim Rohn, who to this day still is my, go-to in all things, business and philosophy, and just how to take something complex and make it. I'll tell you, and just as a quick side note, I've literally been able to build a business within a business based on the teachings of Jim Rohn. And something I'll share here even today as I go through my own personal journey and to your point, trying to become much more mentally tough, that initial, just allowing myself just to become a student to a man who had already passed away. By the time I learned even the name Jim Rohn, he had passed away 3 years before that. And I think it was one of those, but I literally just became a student, And I will tell you this, and this is, I'm going to tell you right now, we are off topic. So I just want to say this, but, I'm like one of those old preachers that let the Lord use you, so, but I will tell you, it's one of those things where when you find a good teacher, and there's, sometimes I remember being back in college and said, man, make sure you take this professor. It's like, okay, great. And everybody had all these great things to say about that professor. And I was like, I hated that class. It's like, what? Wait, why? And vice versa. So that good teacher is specific. It's something that resonates with you, and it may not resonate to everybody, but to you, it did something. And that's what I found in Jim Rohn. And I will tell you, I'm so glad that I did at that time of my life, because I was at the beginning of my marriage, or beginning of being a father, the beginning of trying to carve my way in this world of finance. It was just an even community. And it was kind of just the beginning of trying to create my own little sea legs in this world that I was trying to go into, but wanting to be, feel like I was making some progress. And when I look back on that, I'm thankful for that time of just driving in my car and nonstop listening to CDs, because it's put me in a position now to articulate things that I had it was not even in my lexicon back in those days. But to be able to articulate even to people who are very senior and have been doing this business for years, but it becomes new and fresh outlook and information. And so, when I start just thinking about prioritizing and things like that, that's when I'm thankful for those teachers. Who are those teachers that you have been there? You've been a student. You're still a student. And what did they teach? What are they still teaching you? And are you accepting? Are you willing to become a student? Just to gain, especially when we're looking at your assets. And as we talked about on the last call, looking at your assets, how do I increase? How do I get a higher rate of return? How do I be more impactful based on the things I'm already good at? Things I'm already good at. How do I increase that and become even more impactful? and who am I learning from? Who do you listen to? And yeah, so and so I say that. And I was reading the book last night on Living Your Best Year by Darren Hardy, which I highly recommend. And I highly recommend anybody who is very serious about goal setting. If you're not that serious about goal setting, that's not the book you should get, because this book is really for people, because it's a workbook too. It's a book, and there's a whole worksheet in there about, all right, write it down. This isn't just theory here. This is gonna be practice. Like, so what's this? What's that? It's a great book for people who are serious about goal setting. But one thing he talked about was he called it the creation process formula. The creation process formula. And just talking about, when you are goal setting, where does it all start? How do you begin that process? And it's that, that first idea. And what do you do with an idea that's in your mind, that's in your spirit, but you want to make it real? So how do you make the idea tangible? How do you make it real? And the first thing, it has to become real to you. And seeing those concepts made perfect sense to me, as a kid growing up in church and talking about faith. Like, those concepts made sense. And one thing I've learned is that, especially in working with working with people in my line of work, there are a lot of concepts that make sense to me that don't make sense to other people. And so then and when you realize that, you have to then use the blessing of communication to make things that may seem simple to you, but make it simple to them, especially if it's a concept they've never heard about. And so, but in the creation process, he talks about the first thing to do is create a daily system of gratitude. A daily system of gratitude. And so the question then becomes, what is your daily system of gratitude? That makes you, that the things that you do every morning or every day or whatever it is, that makes you thankful, that makes you say thank you, that makes you just really prepare and beef up your level of gratitude. And I love having that type of conversation with people, because people have different things that they have, things that they do to get to that point. I remember years ago, where you would literally have your phone go off at a certain time just to say thank you. It would buzz, at, I don't know, 15 on the hour or something like that, and say, oh, okay, time to say thank you again. Just whatever system that you can create that will remind you of this is gratitude time. I know you got a lot of stuff going on in your brain and all that. It's time to take a second. And so for me, thankful to Facebook. I look at my memories every day, every morning. I look at the memories on Facebook and I go through it to find something. Maybe it also helps me to kind of see what was going on in my life at that time. I'm like, oh man, I was a wreck because I was talking about it, But more importantly, what it has done is allowed me to kind of see, especially, it starts pretty much around the time that I was, getting ready to get engaged or just coming off of the Obama campaign, actually. So it starts right around, because I think I started after the campaign or right around that time. So 2008. And then after the Obama campaign, then came dating with Maria. Then came our engagement. Then came our marriage. Then came, Maddie being born. Then came career change. And it was just like, and to see the things that I would talk about at that time. Sometimes if it really hit me in a certain way, I'd share it on Facebook or put it in my timeline. And it just helps me every morning Well, sometimes it does. 'Cause I'm like, oh man, that was a rough year. And you hope that the other years will give you something positive. But it helps me to kind of go back to my priorities. And even to this day, when I look at my priorities, it's family, and I maybe not in this order, but the two things I definitely know are important for me is my family and my relationship with God. Those two things keep me on message, and so I can go from a gratitude perspective, I can start with that. Now I will say now I try to have three things. And my third thing today is I'm thankful for my health, but that's also the area that I want to get better at. And I tell you, it's amazing when you go through that process of trying to associate and find teachers who are doing it the way you want to do it. They've done the things that you're trying to accomplish. You can learn from their lifestyle and their counsel. And I'm just blessed over the past, I don't know, maybe say the past 3 years to have just become associated with people who I will quickly call as teachers, mentors. And what's interesting is getting even more, like the stakes are being raised, as we continue to create a lifestyle in this. And so that gratitude session, I think, is something that we all should try to, add into our daily if we're not already doing it. But I want to take a second before we dive any further in that. Anybody else want to kind of outline their month of May? What's been good, what's bad, or anything else they'd like to share? We'll take a second and we'll open up the call now. All right. Well, I wanted to ask. Oh, hey. What's up? Good morning.
Hey. Good morning.
Good morning.
Head down to Miami.
Oh, you are? Oh, good. Okay. So, there we go. Tell everybody why you're heading to Miami.
I'm heading to Miami to finish getting my condo together so I can get it rented. And turning around and coming right back.
See,
so
there we go.
I can really enjoy my weekend because I took an extra time off.
Okay.
And enjoy the Florida weather.
See, you already laid out a couple of gratitude pieces right there. Real quick.
By the way, I'm grateful that I'm about to have a tenant that actually pays their rent.
That's what I'm talking about.
That right there. Yeah.
That is something to be thankful for.
I have a tenant, and I'm grateful that I was able to be able to pay the bill without a tenant.
Yeah.
But I'm ready for a tenant. Costing me money. All right. But that being said, you say good, bad, and indifferent.
Yep.
The month of May been pretty good. We've been coming together, getting our life together, trying to get I had a few health scares this month, trying to get my life together physically. So, but it all still has come together to get myself able to exercise and thank God. And I'm shouting out the way loud because he is the help that everybody has. That knows how to talk to you. And that person that knows how to talk to you, that person that knows how to encourage you in a way that you can feel. So I want to shout him out. I want to thank you for it. I want to thank the Mastermind team on the health challenge. That's what I call it. I'm sorry. That's it. So I have Sorry, go to somebody else in a minute. I'll come back.
Okay.
So how much I don't. I just hit the phone.
Oh, I thought you were still talking to us. All right, I'll come back to you.
You too. All right, I'm back.
All right, you back. All right.
I'm trying to pick up a real. Anyways, they had it not been for everybody to work out, everybody to get up early, everybody doing it, starting that day off right. You know, that, and I hadn't been in a good headspace for a while, so that was just to see that. And some days, I it upsets me that I can't get up that early, and I couldn't motivate myself to be up there doing what I needed to do that early.
Yeah.
I didn't to watch it and not give up and take the other steps, the necessary steps to be able to do that was, you know, it's been life changing, and I have to appreciate the team is helping me get to that place mentally, and I know half of them don't even know they're helping me get to that place mentally. But I appreciate it. I appreciate the team. I appreciate the Mastermind group. That every year this time we set some goals, and we start working towards them. And even if you don't get there, even if you don't hit the full goal, think about how close you've gotten because of the efforts that you've taken just to get there, just to get to the next level. So I appreciate that too, and I'm looking forward to really making this whole thing a life change, not just some 90 days activity I'm doing, but really a life change. And I'm grateful for the Mastermind team with the Dream Makers Network for being able to give them that outlet and that network to be able to have those relationships, be able to do those type of things. So thank you. And I'm going to put myself on mute now.
All right. But see, that's a good thing. But again, that's the gratitude. You know, first of all, to be able to say, here's what. That's why I'm glad you kind of highlighted why you were driving down to Miami. You know, because the fact that you have rental property, and at some point in time, that was a goal, and it went from being a goal to an active thing, and then you learn the pros and cons of a good tenant and a bad tenant. Then there's some people on the call who are trying to get into real estate, you know, and begin that process. You know, and we have some real estate gurus on the line, and just being able to allow those synergies, allow those ideas which become goals that now are verbalized, and people who are really masters and have done really well can now begin this process of sharing that adds value to these other people. And that's how that interwoven network of progress begins. But it starts with the idea. And so what do we do with ideas? And are we afraid? Do we believe that, you know, some people don't even believe that things like that should happen to them, because at somewhere way down, people said that they didn't deserve that. Like, that's not something that we do, kind of thing. Like, don't clump me into your stuff. Like, so we don't make money. We don't become millionaires. You know, nobody in our family don't allow me to participate in that type of, you know, limitness. You know, it just limited me on all that. No, I have an objective. I have an idea. I enjoy this idea that flirts around in my brain, and I enjoy it so much that I think I want to do something about it. Like, that's the beginning. And so as we go into this 90-day goal setting process, you know, over the years, we've had some really cool strategies that have been very beneficial that I think, you know, one day it's going to become a book. You're just going to write a book about this whole thing and just put it out there, because there are steps. I like to do things in threes. You know, 1, 2, 3. It's quick, it's simple to understand, but it still gives you, but it's more than just one, you know, because it's like, you know, it's also kind of associated, even from an asset management perspective. and investing, multiple streams of income. It's like, oh, it's not just about your W-2, but what about this, that, and the other? And so when you start that process, a couple of years back, we talked about the be, do, have, and that process that you start just as you're doing a goal setting plan, a goal setting initiative of becoming what it is that you want. You have the idea, but now you've made the decision to become it. You spend the time doing the work to become that. Even if, if you want to become a millionaire, you can't wait for the $1 million to show up. Because if somebody gives you $1 million, but you hadn't mentally become a millionaire, you're going to spend the money. Your mindset is wherever it is today. So millionaire and billionaire, that's a mindset. The money, the money will come. The last thing, I'm telling you, and I think it was Jim Rohn who said it best. It was like, if somebody gives you $1 million, you better become a millionaire in your mind very quickly. Because if you don't, you will spend that money. It won't be around long. And so we have to become what it is that we say we want. And you have to understand the why. Actually, when I was getting back into this book, the first chapter in this book, Living the Best Life Ever, the Best Year Ever, the first chapter it begins with the why. And we've talked about that too, just really taking that all the way. And so step one, the why is more important than the how, of whatever it is you're trying to do. And that's where a lot of people get stuck. I don't really know how to do that. Well, why are we talking about it? The question is, why are you doing this? Why do you want to do that? And get all the reasons built up. And you keep all them reasons building up. You keep talking about those reasons. Before you know it, you will be completely committed, just full of energy, ready to accomplish whatever that goal is. And so the one thing that has really stuck with me, especially, and to your point, Bonnie, because I've done challenges. And actually, when I look at at my memories, and some of you remember, I did a challenge, weight loss challenge about 5 years ago. And it was a challenge. And listen, not only that, and I was able to accomplish it. And I was able to tell myself, yes, I can do this. I did it before. But because I did not create a system, a daily system to continue, it was a one-off thing. It wasn't something that continued on, in my life. And so, and that's the reason why whatever we create, whatever we're trying to build, whatever we have identified that we want, if we want it to stay around, you can accomplish something. But if you want that to be associated with, as now this is a lifestyle trait that you have in your life, there must be a system that you have just adopted, whether it's a system of the way you think, whether it's a system of the things that you do. We talked about that reminder of gratitude, where you're in a process that you do every day. If it's you're waking up in the morning and getting your workout in before you even, kiss your babies or whatever, you are literally in that rhythm. And so we have to identify what is the system that we will adopt if you really want to see that thing happen. I was just, and Gary Rockman, I'm glad you shared on here that you said you will look the best you've ever looked by September 1st. That is a beautiful goal to have because, and it's specific. I will look the best I've ever looked by September 1st. And that's the goal. And then the next part is, and here's my system so I stay looking that way for the rest of my life. And it's just, I remember my dad, when I was, say, Maddie's age, my dad was a big man. But then I would say probably around the time when he turned 50, late 50s, he slimmed down, and he's been that same weight ever since. And, he's almost 80 now, And so at some point, and then when you talk to him, you hear about this system. So I don't eat before that. And, before intermittent fasting was a thing, that's what my dad was doing. so, so we just have to really begin that process of creating these systems that we know will easily, I shouldn't say easily, but we know we can get into a rhythm of doing. Because once we get into the rhythm of doing it, then now it's a part of your lifestyle. It's a part of something that's actually working. And so, you know, I'm looking forward to actually, and the good thing about these 90-day challenges is that we are, every month we can devote time, we can devote, make a commitment each month to a different part of the goal. So when we talk about doing, becoming, having, during that month of becoming, Bonnie, I'm sure that's you. So, but during that month, we have to connect. And I want to share just a story that, and this is in my own personal process here, which, and again, as over this past month and thinking about these assets and the things that I'm doing right, but I want to get better at it. You know, I had an opportunity, you set these goals of people who you want to meet, and you want to meet them, and when you get a chance to meet them, you'd love to be able to have a relationship with these folks. And I had an opportunity to meet basically a hero of mine and have a very detailed, conversation, not just about business, but also just about life and goals. And one of the cool things is that it really helped me to restructure, what I look at as, my long-term plans. And here's a man who's already 80 years old, and at 80, he and his wife are still pushing, are still accomplishing goals, raising it to the next level. I'm like, yikes, just to be able to, at the age of 80, where it seems like, he's pushing the gas like he's 50, and it's just a beautiful, for me personally, it's just great to hear. And how, when you have these images of what you thought was possible and how old you thought you would be when you were doing it, but then you get a chance to connect with somebody and they said, no, you don't slow down, at 60, whatever. You reconnect with your passions and let that drive you all the way until you don't have any more life. But more importantly, that you spend so much time reconnecting with the things that matter to you, that what you're building becomes bigger than your life. That it's something that lasts decades past your lifetime. And when that becomes the driving force, for especially when you're identifying these people, who do you listen to? Then now you're in a situation where you don't feel like there's a finite, that these are finite goals, that these are like, it's going to end when you die. And when you think about that, when that changes, when your mindset changes and say, it's what I'm working on will not end when I die, that gives you, it should, at least for me, gives you an extra push to say, wow, like I have more time. Because a lot of times we do stuff because, well, I don't have enough time for that. But what you mean? Like, but it's like, if your work, now granted, here's the piece, if your goal is financial and you're like, man, I gotta spend this money, while I can, kind of thing, then okay, I get what you're saying, because you do have a block of time. But for other folks who will say, well, and I'll tell you the truth, most of my clients, they cannot spend the money that they have. They're based on their lifestyle and what they have accumulated and the investment associated with the assets. I can't say they can't, but they won't spend that money in their lifetime. So then at that point, your brain shifts and say, well, what am I really trying to accomplish then? If I have more money than I can personally spend, then what is this money for? What is this about? And so I want to use that example because when we're identifying what our goals are, it's so important to push past kind of your circle, your what your circle is doing, and try to go into that circle that is, allows you to think much bigger than your mind has ever been able to think. And even though, now some people may say, well, listen, that's great, that's cool, but my goal for the next 90 days is to, make sure we get this house restructured. And even with that, like, how do you want to do that? So I want to make sure that we are not, number one, not limiting our ability to create, that we're not, thinking too small, that we are pushing past what the normal thought process is on what we can and cannot do. And then with that, we put together a plan. We put together a plan for the month of June. We put together a plan for the month of July. We put together a plan for the month of August. And when by the time Labor Day comes, you're staring at, more so you're able to look back and say, look what we've been able to create, because we started down a road that just became like a snowball, where we did the right things every day. Step by step by step, we were able to create something that truly is reflective of what you've kind of pictured in your mind. So I wanted to take a second and open up the call to anybody who wants to share. Now, I know some of you have had time to kind of think about this, but who want to share what your goal is, what you'd like to accomplish. What are you willing to challenge yourself on during the next 90 days? And even if you like to share what it is and why, because I think if we can do that, then we've put it out there. Now you have created the opportunity for that network to be created to support what you have identified as your goal for this summer. So I'll take a second. We'll open up the call now to anybody who would like to share what their goal is for this summer and why this is their goal. So we'll open up the call now.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Wow, this call here went in so many different directions. And one thing I know, you have to get in fast where you fit in. So the few times I wanted to say something and then we went to something else. This is Doretha. And I'm just briefly going to say, one, I wake up every morning just thanking God that I can open my eyes up. That right there in itself, if I don't do that, before I can get out of bed, I'm grateful that I was able to go home and see a cousin of mine within a 2-week time frame. She found out she had cancer and then she had passed. And I was able to go there, see her face, make her laugh, and tell her that I love her. She died that following Monday. And with that being said, my goal, because I think I told you I was awarded this contract.
That's right.
And ironically, the person that it's a long story. I won't get into it, but it's funny. The people that selected me because the company didn't go the way they want, they actually resigned because what they want. I'll tell you later.
Yeah.
But I really need. I'm so far out of my element with this position that my goal is going to be building the skill set, because I'm coming to something that I've never done before.
Okay.
But my persona, they're really crazy about me because I'm not going to be beat. So it's going to be one of, skill set. It's also going to be one, like the other young lady said, of recovery, because I'm going to be able to, walk again and do some power walks from my surgery. So my goal is going to be, threefold. That I'm going to sit down. I do things in three also. So first thing, my goal, I need to write it down. and make it plain, and then speak it into existence. But I'm going to be proficient in this job. They said it takes about a year actually to be proficient in it because so many things. And with one of those 3-letter agencies,
Yep.
So I'm excited about that because they've been going from it since last year. And wow, just this whole past year, with COVID and all that has just really been reflective on what you can accomplish because I came out of retirement. I didn't have to go to work, as you know, and I was comfortable with it. But I see that I really need a challenge, and that that's what really keeps me going and really keeps me popping. And like the couple you said, at 80 years old, that'll be me because I have to be doing something. I'm thankful for this call that I thought I wasn't going to even make today because of my migraine. But you all invigorate me. I want to, and so I'm just thankful for that. Just listening in. So again, you will have my goals. I want everybody to be blessed, and I'll let the next person talk.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, Doretha, I don't know what. I mean, maybe this is just me, but I just get so excited to hear about people doing something new. And it's I'm doing this new. This is my new role. It's a challenge, like that. Something about that really excites me. Because I know that you're gonna create. So what the first thing we all do as humans is we look into our current memory bank as to get help to fix to do something, a new thing. But then the next thing is, okay, I've never done any of this stuff before. What am I going to do to make sure that I'm not only doing this job well, but I put my own spice on it and really make it thrive. And so then you go down this process of learning and taking in the right information and being able to associate. And so very eager. I'm definitely even probably going to reach out to you to learn more about what you're doing to as we go through the month of June. And if you would set a goal for this is what I'd like to see accomplished by Labor Day in this new role. Just to be able so we can talk about the steps and the good and the bad and the process and how you feel about the process. I mean, that's the beauty of, these having goals and working on them because you can measure you can identify what you're doing. You can measure your success, and what you identify as success versus what maybe some superiors may say what success should be. It's just the journey and the process, and you're gaining these new thought processes as you're going through something new. So I'm excited for you. It's amazing how the world works, because I remember when we talked originally about it and you weren't as enthusiastic about it. And then now this person is gone. So it opens up a lane where, some great things can happen. So congratulations there. And we're definitely looking forward to hearing more about your process and progress on this.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to open up the call. Anybody else want to take a second to either one, highlight what your gratitude is and what you're thankful for? And if you're willing and ready to actually verbalize to the world what your goal is for this summer, what your 90-day challenge will be, we'll take a second. Let's open up the call now. Hey.
All right, I'm back.
All right.
I'm on the road.
All right.
Anyway, so I'm verbalizing my challenge and I'm saying it out loud.
Okay.
My goal is to, my overarching goal is to have my blood pressure under control, to have started a pattern of better eating, quality eating, quality foods, that kind of stuff, and and becoming to being on a healthy meat. I guess the overall goal is to be on a healthy meat. But in the meantime, how I plan to do that is I already started it. And I knew I needed to start a month ahead of time. I needed to start my BD half a month of time because I'm in the flow class.
Yeah.
So I did this month of May, preparing for it, learning how I got my supervisor involved because she is someone who lost 125 pounds and she's been able to maintain it for the past 5 years. And so when I told her what I wanted to do, what she did was she started giving me all the tools that she had. And then also Dwayne started giving me things that I needed to do. And so I've already started learning how to meal prep, how to do it, and how to eat. I got my Fitness Pal app. I started adding everything in, and now it has become a thing for me to make sure I put my meals in during the day, so I watch what I eat, and I know I can't go over this, and I know I can't do that. And then I started, being mindful of what I'm taking in, because half the battle is knowing what you're putting in your body and making sure you're putting real food and not junk in your body. And the next thing is, the other thing I did was I joined the gym, and I started actually going. Which is, I don't do that because I don't spend money on food. If I ain't going to use it, I ain't throwing my money away. Yeah. So I started going to the gym, doing that. And so now I got a plan. Since this past week, I'm up early. So I hit the gym first, and I leave before I go to work. Leave in because the gym is right next to the office. Get dressed and everything at the gym for work, and I'm done. So about 8:30 in the morning, I would have hit everything I need to hit. And I would be like Titano and Pam and the way put my steps in early.
I love it.
That's my plan.
I love it
early because I told y'all I'm in a slow class in this particular area of my life.
It's all good. Listen. I'm gonna tell you a couple things you just did, and which is what I hope everybody and myself, all of us, are doing when we're looking at this goal setting, this 90-day goal setting, is that one, you specify what they are and why. So you have your why associated. And I don't want to just, throw out the why like it's just something, but because the why is what's going to get you through. I mean, we can set up these nice big goals all we want, but if our why is small, by the time we get to, we don't even make it to July. June 30th or June 12th or whatever, it'll be wrapped. We're like, oh no, I decided against that. So your why is so important because you're going to need a really big why to get through just 1 month, let alone 90 days. And so, but the other part, and I think, and to be honest with you, to the real piece of making this work, I would say even more so than the why, and that's hard to say, is the system. Because you can have a goal, you can have a really big why, but if you never created a system, you can have a beautiful car outside and you love getting in that car. But if you don't put gas in that car, it ain't going nowhere. It's just a beautiful car, a beautiful idea, but you got to put some gas, and the system is the gas. So like you said, so this is what I'm doing every day at XYZ time. And here's why we're doing it at that time, because we have a whole nother network who's going to see this. And so, that's the system. That's the system. So the system are the things that you do every day that keeps that goal alive and allows you to measure where you are. Because if there's no system, you say, oh, I think I'll do it a little later. I think tomorrow I'll do it at XYZ time. I think I guess that's a system, but that's a system that is bound for failure if it's not in the schedule, And so like this, a lot of times, like I'll tell people if I'm getting ready to say, hey, we want to meet and do XYZ, I say, hey, put it on my calendar. Because if it's not on my calendar, it's not happening. It's a matter of fact, somebody else is going to put something else over it. So the system is put it on my calendar. It will happen if it's on my calendar. I can guarantee that. So what is the system to make sure that these things are happening every day or whatever the schedule is? Because it's just, we want to make sure we got the right information early before we get, start going down the road and realize we just had a bad system, so I love it. Anybody else want to jump in and highlight what their goal is for this summer for the 90-day goal setting challenge? All right, let's do it. Hey.
So I'm definitely appreciative. First, I'll start with my gratitude. I'm just super appreciative of definitely being part of the check-in group for fitness. Just on the strength of, yes, I know forever I need that accountability, but even just having the group on days where I'm like, oh yes, I made my decision to do that, fine. But if I don't put it into the group, and someone else does, I'm like, oh yeah, me too. So that's just good to hold me accountable for that. I have Peloton, so we have like the blue cross, the blue dot group. Every time you do something on Peloton, you get a blue dot for the day. And I ain't been in the blue cross. The blue dot group, basically you don't miss a day through the month. And so even just seeing those, when I first got it, I was on it, and so I had it every day. The days I didn't work out, the days I didn't ride, I did yoga or I did a meditation. So I had those straight blue dot months. I ain't seen a blue dot month since a minute ago until like I'm close. I'm like, I think I missed 4 days this month of a workout. But a part of that was being able to check in with the group, just keeping me consistent. And by doing that, I then found another group on Facebook that does 5 o'clock Monday through Friday. So I've committed to doing 5 o'clock with these women Monday through Friday. That way I know I have 5 half-an-hour workouts already in the schedule and they're already planned. So that goes to that system building. And I'm pretty social, so the social stuff really does help me stay on track. If I tell you I'm going to do it and y'all know you're looking for my picture, then I'm going to be a part of it because I can't not be there once I say I'm going to be there. So that's a part of my system is that social aspect, which is super helpful. Thank you guys tremendously because that's been helpful. But my goal right now by Labor Day, I have to launch my new company. So my website is just waiting for my content to go in. It's basically set up. I just have to sit my behind down and do it. And I've just been putting it off because I'm taking care of, putting out everybody else's fires. So this next 3 months is about making sure that mine is tight because it just has to be. And that's my goal is to launch that and again to stay on point as far as Blue Dots. Getting something in, getting some movement 7 days a week, no matter what. Like Bonnie talked about as far as eating, just revisiting the plans that I've been working for and just really understanding it at that level. So I'm looking into the micronutrients, making sure I'm getting enough of this, enough of that. Because sometimes I won't. And when I know I don't, then I'm going to grab chips. And we all know that is only one diet plan. So just being clear and setting myself up for success on the front end, so that I don't fall off the wagon, and if I do, I don't stay off the
wagon. That's so true. And so it's good because you actually have kind of a layered support system. So you got our group that's everybody's popping their stuff in, but then you got this Blue Dot goal, and you got another group. So it's like, and that's good. I mean, because we all know our strong points and limitations, and some of us need a little extra. All right, hey, I know that group said something, but what about that? And it's always good. I'm glad you have that Blue Dot kind of goal because that's the one, especially if that means you did some activity every day. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment to highlight, to say, I've done something every day and here's what that was. And here's what my total was for the month. And that's if Blue Dot, I mean, that's huge. I mean, if you can do that every month every day for 90 days, now that's taking it to a whole nother level. But it's good to have that as part of your goal system. And you can say, well, I didn't hit Blue Dot, but check what I did do, And even going back to what we were talking about, how Simone Biles was like, I'm just competing against myself and I want to win. I want to beat me every time, So it's just it's great to have those types of examples and to give us kind of a measurement to follow. So I love it. We're gonna keep this thing rocking. Anybody else before we finish up? And anybody else want to jump in?
What's up, everybody? This is Gary Best.
Oh,
What's up?
Gary Best.
How y'all doing?
Sound like you on it right now, brother.
I just want to say, man, that brother Paz never ceases to amaze me. Every time that brother speaks, man, I just get jailed. So, brother Paz, thanks. Thanks for that, man. So yeah, man, I'm a part of the group. I haven't been posting, but I have been doing something almost every day. I can still send y'all the screen print of my app that kind of tracks everything. I'm out getting some more work in right now. So I'm out of rust a little bit, but for me, May has been like a transfer, just a whole month of transformation. I don't know if you guys know, but my dad passed last fall. So I've kind of moved down to North Carolina to make sure my mom is okay. But I just wasn't knocking things out like I was when I was in Baltimore, because I come to realize that for me, man, it's all about the environment has to be conducive for me to set up, kind of the environment I had at home in Maryland down here in North Carolina.
Yeah.
So I made that change this month. So man, now I'm all good. So kind of how I roll. Like whenever I'm going through stuff or transforming, man, I go in this cave and work stuff out. I'm still moving and grooving, man. I see Paz's posts each day, man. Every day I see that 100R. I'm like, man, I gotta drop down and do some kind of push up, some kind of crunches or something. So man, I just want to thank y'all, and I'm gonna go head back to running now.
All right. Appreciate you, brother. Living it right now in the middle. I love it, man. This is and then one thing which is really cool is that the fact that even you had to make that move back to North Carolina, but at the same time you recognize when your normal flow wasn't there. So how do you recreate that? And a lot of times it takes people a long time to piece those things together. Say, man, I'm just off. Things ain't working here. I need to move back, or I need to go do something different. But to be able to assess that quickly and put together a plan to get back in the rhythm, man, and that goes also back to that what Paz was mentioning earlier about that mental toughness, because especially when you lost a loved one and all the things associated with that, and it's just difficult, when the emotion side is greater than the mental, and so you're just like you're caught up in that whirlwind. But it's great to hear that you kind of created a system to get that in control where you are now. And again, and in this world, man, we can all stay connected, so it's not like we have to see each other face to face. We haven't seen people face to face in over a year. So we have to use the technology to keep the right type of network, available to us, and doing everything that we got to do to make sure that our mindset is right. We got the right network, keeping the right energy, and that we still have our system of how we even move from, information that we're putting into our life, into our mind, even while we're going through these challenges. So, man, I'm glad that you highlighted that and kind of shared your process, and the fact that you're out there burning right now, man. I'm like, all right, as soon as we finish, I need to put my post in, so we can catch up on this thing, man. I appreciate you, brother Best. All right, well, we're getting really close to 9 o'clock hour here, so we've kind of extended this out to our call. I wanted to just kind of even highlight for myself personally goals that I'm setting for myself. So right now, I'm knee deep in preparing for a new certification with them as an advisor, which is the Certified Exit Planning Advisor, the CEPA, which I'm loving the studies, man. I mean, it's usually when you're studying for an exam, you don't really love the studies. You're just like, oh, I can't wait, this is over. But this has been such a beautiful, oh man, it's just been so exciting because, the objective of the exit planning advisor is to help companies exit. So to help these, and there's so many baby boomers right now who are trying to figure out, how do I sell my company, but how do I sell it at the highest multiple possible? And many people just feel crippled in that process, like don't even know how to sell. And if they do, they sold it for way undervalued. And so this is just, and I have clients right now who I'm able, even in my studies, are able to be and add some value to their process. And so, so my exam is this month. So that's definitely a big goal of mine, to get that done, get it passed, and then be able to start communicating with more business owners who are trying to figure out, and more so we're talking about entrepreneurs who've built something. Sometimes they've built it, 30, 40 years, and they were hoping to pass it down to family, didn't realize there was no family who was interested in the business. And now like, oh, what am I doing with this business? And then others, you have these great, innovative entrepreneurs who build these great businesses fast, but then they want to go on to something else, and they want to create a liquidity event sooner than later. And they're not really trying to make this kind of a legacy business. And so, let's sell this business and reinvest that money into the next idea, when you're working with a lot of innovators who are entrepreneurs. And so, so I'm excited about this work and just expanding and adding on to my advisory background. And so that's one thing. The other thing is, we're establishing the nonprofit for the Dream Makers Network, which is more so the foundation. And so we can build out a membership objective, which also will focus, we're just going to focus on financial literacy and economic advancement, youth leadership, and so we can really beef up the nonprofit work. We can make investments through the foundation directly into expanding financial literacy and economic activism, and really reaching young people so we can start them early. And as they go through high school, college, and come out and become these active adults, that they have information that the school system didn't give them. We're studying all these different things in school, but folks don't even know how to open a bank account, what investments are, what you should do when you get $1. Like, just that early foundational information around financial literacy is something that's near and dear to my heart. I'm so excited to have this, to be a part of that, and connecting events, a lot of things that we're doing on the event side, to use those as fundraisers to help fund these initiatives. And so very excited about getting that launched. And I hope to get that done this definitely by the end of June, but hopefully, if not June, but definitely before we finish the 90-day goal setting challenge this year. And also on one more note, which is much more centered around just personal investments. I know some of you guys I mentioned real estate. Real estate is something that I have not added to my portfolio, but I'm very eager and excited to do that. And so I'm going to be reaching out to some of our mastermind folks on here. We may need to create our own real estate mastermind, and bring in brothers like Gary Best and Gary Rockman and some of these guys who've just done a great job in this space. But this is something I'm definitely interested in doing now. It's helped a lot of clients in that space. And so, I think it's something I want to add this summer to my own personal portfolio, as we are doing this goal setting initiative and challenging ourselves to expand what we have and create some big goals and identify why we want to do it, and how does that play, from my perspective, from a legacy perspective, And so there's a lot of cool things happening right now in finance that I think it's important for us to have our eyes open as to what's happening and how it could benefit your personal, immediate, financial goals, but at the same time play a huge role in your legacy, in your assets over time, and generational wealth, and making that a big part of how we begin to rebuild communities. And we're not just kind of, that's a big part. If we're not passing anything down, then that next generation is starting from scratch. And it's hard for us to be able to rebuild communities if we're not if every new generation is starting from scratch, from zero. And this is something that is near and dear to my heart. I hope to spend the rest of my life, and again, beyond my life, being able to have these types of conversations, having the right resources in place to educate the community and put them right into a process that If you devote X amount of your compensation to this new process, here's what you can create over 60 days, 90 days, a year, 3 years, 5 years, and begin to forecast and look into the future. But we have to start somewhere. So these are kind of my goals for this year, or more so for this summer. Just excited to have them. And definitely, on the health side, I tell you what, man, you mentioned a few things, man. I'm telling you, it's one thing for us to get these steps in, but it's another when you start really doing the P90X and all that other stuff. I'm like, I may be good for one day out of the week to do the full body, but it's good to have these folks who are really kicking it up to the next level, and then we can join in and be a part of that network. So, all right. We got 4 minutes. Anybody else want to dive in before we finish up for the day?
Hey, Byron. This is Dana. Every time you opened up, I was away from the phone, and my phone was on mute. So I was like, dang, I gotta jump in. All right, real quick.
Yep.
Real quick. What I've been going through. I think just for me being such a high energy person, such a person that likes to be involved with everything, I took on too much. Like I took on way too much, and then I fell into kind of a semi-depressed state because I wasn't getting everything accomplished. And so for me, that's not a good feeling.
Yeah.
And so more and more, I started just putting stuff on the waste, putting stuff aside. So now I'm in a situation where I have all these projects and all these things to do. My to-do list is super long. So for the next 90 days, I'm writing everything down that needs to be accomplished. I'm not taking on anything new. And I'm just knocking all of that out so I can get back to feeling like me. And now I'm just going to be mindful, because even things you send me, how long it takes for me to respond, it's almost like an overwhelming thing. Like, oh my God, not one more project, not one more thing, one more time. I prayed for a mentor. I have this multi-million-dollar mentor. Her practice is generating that kind of money every year. And she knows me personally. She calls me on my phone. She texts me, what have you done? I want to see this treatment plan. And I find myself kind of clamming up. So it's like when you pray about stuff, be ready for it to happen. On steroids.
Oh.
And it's like, oh God, what an accountability partner. Oh my goodness. Because it's like, I got this giant right here.
Yeah.
And she has high demand. And I'm like, and now I have to enforce it. So just that in itself, and I have her for a year. She's mine for a year. And other people, so I belong to another mastermind. But my next 90 days is all about sorting through, knocking out projects, not taking on more than I can handle. So that way, after those 90 days, like, I'm going to hit the ground running. By January, I will have decided on if I want to build this house or build a couple of rental properties on the land.
Yeah.
Or just what? Because right now it's like I haven't made a decision because it's just too much on my plate and I don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
And all the stress is making me gain weight. So in 90 days, I'll be a lot smaller because I'm just doing it. I'm just getting rid of excess baggage and clutter.
Yeah.
Mental clutter. And that's 90 days now.
Well, I tell you, I mean, I'm glad you've laid it out like that. You've kind of placed an outline out there. I would say definitely lean on me as it relates to on the financial side and kind of helping to outline the pros and cons of just, should you do rental properties on that land? Should you build your own spot? And let's do, so we can do some forecasting on that. Because I think that, I mean, I have my own ideas, but I definitely want to share that with you and we can talk through it together. But to be able to get to the end of 90 days and say, here's my list, here's what I'm putting my time on. And especially when you have, just an accountability partner who has what you want. to be a multi-million dollar practice, have a multi-million dollar practice. That is, it's great to have those type of people and access to those folks, and it's real time conversations. And so these are, that's a powerful goal. And use the network, connect with us, definitely on some of these things to help simplify the outline and the priorities, the 1, 2, 3, and then so we can begin that process of saying in Labor Day, here's what we got, here's what we created, and I'm really optimistic, and I would say again, I want to share with you guys, the book Living Your Best Year Ever, by Darren Hardy. Again, if you're really serious about goal setting and having it outlined and having it detailed and being very specific, Living Your Best Year Ever by Darren Hardy is a book that will help you get there, document everything, help you think through and ask the right questions of yourself, and then document those, those answers. Highly recommend that book. But more importantly, as you're going through this, if you can simplify the activities, and again, I talked about kind of the 1, 2, 3, it's fresh in my brain. It's not, and there's some things, and even back to your point, Dr. Truesdale, is that when you have, when there are a lot of things going on, I love to weed stuff out. Like, okay, some of y'all are not going to make the list. I only got 3 spots. I love to weed stuff off my list. It makes me feel good when so some people say, "Hey man, I got kicked off your list." I'm sorry, brother. Here's what's going on. so I got to knock these things out over the next 90 days. And then once those are done, then I can restructure my list, reprioritize, and then we can get to that point. But here, so and you don't feel bad. You don't feel bad about that. As a matter of fact, I get excited to weed stuff off my list, because that means that I'm devoting my time to the things that matter to me at this particular moment, and as time goes on, check stuff off the box, boom, you have another list of priorities. And so, so having that simplified, organized outline of what your priorities are, I think will be very helpful. So you can really use the energy you have in the way that's most beneficial to you personally, and the things that matter to you and everybody else who's associated with you. So, all right, that's all I got. So let's get started. You guys have a spectacular Memorial Day weekend. Enjoy the family, enjoy everybody, stay safe. Hope you got your vaccine, so we can start reconnecting. And but we're going to be sending out notes, checking on everybody, see how you're making out in this month of June, before we lead to our next call later in the month. But we want to make sure, and if you have some thoughts, reach out to me, shoot me an email, text me, let me know what you're working on. And if you have some questions, or hey, need to get access to this somebody, or do we know some people who can be helpful with this, that, or the other, let us know. Let's stay connected on that. All right, guys, have a great weekend, and we will see you next month. See you soon.
Have a great one.
This session is no longer being recorded. Goodbye.